You can listen to the Canadian Gothic early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
A desperate search is underway tonight in Nova Scotia. Two siblings, aged just 4 and 6, are believed to have wandered away from their home on Friday morning and haven't been seen since.
When we noticed that the children were gone, immediately jumped in the vehicle, surveyed all the areas, many dirt roads, many culverts as I could.
I want them home. I want to hold them. And I want them home.
You are listening to Canadian Gothic.
It's now been 1 full year since then 4-year-old Jack and his 6-year-old sister Lilly Sullivan were reported missing from their home in rural Nova Scotia. Since then, the case has twisted and turned in nearly every direction. There's been continued ground searches, both civilian and professional. There's been polygraphs, search warrants, hours of camera footage, the said-to-be unrelated arrest of the last person to see the kids, and of course, endless speculation. Yet to this point, none of it has led back to Jack or Lilly. In this episode tonight, Madeleine Klein and I are going to catch up on the case by breaking down all the activity related to the grim 1-year milestone for this case. So grab a drink and get comfortable. Tonight, in the 17th episode of this Canadian Gothic series, we're again going to be asking, where are Jack and Lilly Sullivan?
It cannot be overstated the statistical rarity of what we've seen, where 2 children to go missing at the same time, and a year later to have no real investigative indicators, given that the police are still asking for tips, and are actually also stating that they don't believe foul play is involved. This is extremely unprecedented.
Ms. Madeleine Klein, we're back to again discuss a story that I'm shocked we're now discussing for, I believe this is our 17th episode, covering the disappearance of Jack and Lilly Sullivan. And this is it's a dark one, but also an important one. We just hit the 1-year anniversary. On May 2nd, 2025 is when the children were reported missing. We're recording this now mid-May of 2026, and I'm shocked we're here.
Remember when we didn't think our first episode would air? We recorded it and we were like, well, hopefully by the time it's edited, the kids are found and this is a non-issue. But here we are. Here we are,
and oddly, it's odd to say, but if you listen to that first episode, we don't know a whole lot more now at the 1-year anniversary than we did at the, 1 week later, I think is when we recorded the first one. So little has come out, so little seems to be developing. And I've received a lot of emails from people saying, like, are you guys going to do another episode about Jack and Lilly? And I always say, like, yeah, we'll do one once, there's something significant to talk about. And it's been, I think, 3 months now since we discussed this case, and that is just a statement to how slow things are moving. But the fact that the 1-year anniversary is just in our rearview mirror, that kind of kicked up a lot. For one, it led to a police press conference and press release. It led to a whole series of CTV, CBC, and global news reports kind of outlining the case and speaking to some people associated with it. It led to a civilian ground search. And also, I don't think this has anything to do with the 1-year anniversary, but the children's stepfather, Daniel Martell, had some interesting stuff kind of happening in court related to his criminal situation, the criminal charges against him, I guess is what we'll put it. So I figured what we can do tonight is go through everything that's happened in connection to the 1-year anniversary, and within this case, over the last month and a half since we last spoke. Where do you want to start with this? Do you want to get into Daniel Martell? Do you want to talk about a civilian search? Or should we get into the police handling of the 1-year anniversary?
Let's start with the civilian search.
Yeah, and I actually, good to say that, to get it out of the way, because I don't have a lot to say about the civilian search, but we have said multiple times that the initial ground search after the children's disappearance was thorough. It was all-encompassing. It seemed to use every bit of technology that police and search and rescue had available. When that turned up nothing more than a piece of a blanket and what may or may not be shoe prints related to the children, that opened the door to civilian searches. And there's quite a few civilian searches. But to mark the 1-year anniversary, a civilian group called Please Bring Me Home, they've managed a civilian search in the past that we discussed. They did one for the 1-year anniversary. As far as we know, it didn't find anything of note and didn't develop or move the case forward in any significant way. But I think the most interesting thing to say about this search is it's really the first time that the children's mother, Malaya Brooks, got involved in anything. She's been silent since the beginning, but she took part in this civilian search that Daniel Martell did not take part in.
And also surprising is Martell didn't participate. He's been in the spotlight the whole time.
He's been silent since his arrest, and up until now, anytime there were public events or searches, he was kind of the guy that was there, speaking on behalf of the family, speaking to the media. Yeah, we haven't seen him since the arrest, but maybe this is opening the door for Malaya to have a larger role in it. I'm going to play just a short clip of a news piece by CBC. They had a journalist kind of take part in this search. I'll play a little bit of it and we can hear about this.
The lack of answers is what has brought searchers back to Lansdowne, including Brooks Murray. The children's mother has stayed mostly silent over the past year amid harsh criticism from online sleuths. But she decided to partake in this latest public search to show her support and appreciation.
So there's nothing else of note in that clip, so I won't play any more of it. The clip goes on longer.
Oh,
no.
I was waiting for an interview.
She took part in it, but largely as kind of just like a silent participant. Her mother gave a couple comments to the media, but nothing of note. There were photos of Malaya taking part in the search, but as far as I can tell, this search was a little bit different where they kind of vetted the participants, probably as a way to shield Malaya from, the criticism and the wackos and whatnot. But I just kind of, the one thing to say about this search is I hope this is maybe a turning point for Malaya having a larger role now that Daniel, for the most part, is out of the picture.
I hope so. That would be nice. I wonder if Daniel's silence is, I wonder if his lawyer is telling him to, shut the hell up.
His lawyer probably should have done that a while ago, but I think that's likely it. And just the online discourse around this case, while Malaya was silent, it was very vicious against her. I think her coming forward may change it a little bit because now it's certainly changed towards Daniel ever since his arrest and all this. Although the police have said that the charges against him aren't connected to Jack and Lily's disappearance, the public perception of Daniel has completely soured.
Oh, absolutely. And I also wonder if Malaya's participation in this search, there's probably not a restraining order, but a no contact order or something. And wherever she is, Daniel can't be. So I wonder if that has anything to do with her new presence.
Whether or not it's anything to do with something like that, if that was the case, I think Daniel's probably just getting out of the line of fire with the criticism he's facing. Since we've been talking about him a bit, let's give a quick update on Daniel Martell's, the status of Daniel Martell's criminal case, and then we can start getting into the 1-year anniversary stuff. So, as we know, Daniel was he was arrested and charged with assault, sexual assault, and unlawful confinement involving an adult female victim who, due to a publication ban, can't be named or identified. We know, again, it's an adult female. We know that the charges relate to incidents that took place when Daniel and Malaya were together, and we know that the incidents that the charges relate to took place on the same street that Daniel and Malaya had lived on and the children lived on. That's about all we know about this situation. We've been waiting for the case to get to court and more information to be revealed. But I guess there's been 2 court appearances since we last discussed Daniel's arrest, and let's talk about them and see if this gives us any insight as to what may be going on. So first of all, after Daniel's arrest, he was scheduled to go into court on March 30th to plead guilty or not guilty or whatever, and to get the ball rolling for a trial. Here's how that went.
The courthouse doors behind me opened for what was supposed to be a key moment in the case of Daniel Martell, the stepfather of 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan. But instead of a plea, the matter was postponed. His lawyer asked for more time to go through a large volume of evidence, some just handed over in the last few days, which the Crown prosecutor said was provided by the RCMP. No plea was entered and no testimony was heard. Martell did not appear in court. His lawyer attended on his behalf. The case has now been pushed to May 4th. No further details were discussed in court.
So, as we just heard, March 30th, Daniel's not there. His lawyer's there on his behalf. people are showing up. There's a lot of people with like signs and everything outside about, Jack and Lilly. Where are Jack and Lilly? This sort of thing. People are in the supporters of Jack and Lilly are in the courtroom. Daniel's not there, and his lawyers request a delay until May 4th because of new information that's been revealed, and they need time to do lawyer stuff to it. But we're now recording this after May 4th, so you would think we have an update. Let me read to you a brief synopsis of what went on in the courtroom on what was the second chance for Daniel to submit his plea and, the ball to start rolling.
Don't piss me off so early. It's only 10:30 here.
The criminal case involving Daniel Martell, the stepfather of the two missing children in Nova Scotia, has been postponed again until July. During a brief court appearance on May 4th, Crown Attorney Bill Gorman said the delay was needed because of additional disclosure in the case. Martell, who didn't attend this hearing, is charged with assault, sexual assault, and unlawful confinement involving an adult victim who cannot be identified. Daniel Martell is scheduled to return to the provincial court in Pictou on July 7th, where he is expected to enter an election and a plea. So this is the second time it's been delayed, now until July, due to disclosure, which basically is the sharing of evidence from the prosecution to the defense. And really what this tells me is a few things. The big thing it's telling me is that there's still new information related to these charges being revealed. It being, new evidence or new things to consider. So whatever.
Hey, but is there, or are they just doing the dilly-dally?
Maybe, but
is this just a colossal waste of time and money?
If it was just this pointless thing, there would be arguments. Like, they wouldn't just keep delaying it for no reason. There must be something to justify the judge agreeing, like, yes, you need more.
That's
I
true.
agree, you need more time. I wonder, there's a few things. In the first appearance in March, it was Daniel's defense who asked for more time because of this new information that was revealed to the prosecution from the RCMP. They wanted more time, so it got delayed to May 4th. I couldn't figure out if it was the defense or the prosecution who requested the delay on the May 4th hearing. If it was the prosecution, that could maybe indicate that they're not as confident as they were about their case.
Right. I just assumed it was the defense.
I did as well, but
okay.
In the all the news clips and articles I could find about it, they're quoting the prosecutor about this delay, which
interesting.
Kind of, if he's speaking on behalf of the delay, you would think it was his request, the prosecution's request, but we don't know.
And I think we have to remember that this case and the disappearance of Jack and Lilly are two completely different entities. Like, they have really nothing to do with each other.
According to
in a court of law.
According to the police and the court and all that. According to the police statements. But that said, if the children's stepfather, the last person to see them, is convicted of sex assault and forcible confinement a couple months before the kids disappear, that's certainly relevant.
It's a terrible look, I'll tell you that.
Mm-hmm. So whether or not these charges specifically relate to Jack and Lily's disappearance, if you write a book about Jack and Lily's disappearance, these charges are going to be discussed in it.
Oh, for sure. If you've come looking for an argument, you've come to the wrong place. Okay. But I'm just saying, in a court of law, they're not going to consider either case within the separate cases,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But I guarantee whatever's happening behind the scenes in the charges against Daniel Martell, I guarantee that the investigators on that case are communicating regularly with the major crimes unit that are investigating Jack and Lily's disappearance.
They gotta be, right?
You can say, they can say all they want that this isn't related. I guarantee there's the sharing of information. It has to be.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. But they're not gonna publicly publish that.
So at this point in our discussion, we've really covered everything that's new in terms of developments related to Jack and Lily's disappearance, but so much more has happened as a result of the 1-year anniversary of their disappearance, the police or the RCMP press release and press conference related to the disappearance. Let's take a quick break and then we'll get into that because there was so much to discuss about what was and what wasn't said by the RCMP. Madeline Klein, let's get into the RCMP's handling of the 1-year anniversary. We'll start simple. I'm going to read you portions of the press release the RCMP released on the anniversary. The Nova Scotia RCMP continues an active and comprehensive investigation into the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan 1 year after the children were reported missing from their home on Garlock Road in Lansdowne. Some of the investigative steps taken to date include obtaining and executing judicial authorizations for materials and digital devices of those closest to the children, allowing investigators to examine phone records, banking records, etc. We formally interviewed 106 individuals, administered polygraphs as an investigative tool, conducted forensic examinations at the Ottawa-based RCMP National Forensic Laboratory, reviewed 8,132 functioning video files, searched 40 kilometers around the Lansdowne area using RCMP human remains detection dogs, evaluated and prioritized 1,191 tips, worked through 1,534 investigative tasks. Multiple investigative components continue simultaneously with information gathered through the investigation informing next steps, and all possible scenarios remain under consideration. Throughout the past year, the RCMP has continued to receive information from the public and acknowledges the assistance provided by community members across the province and beyond. Now they're quoting Staff Sergeant McCammon. "We appreciate people's concern and engagement. At this stage of the investigation, what investigators need are specific, verifiable details to work with. Rumor and speculation won't lead us to Lilly and Jack." And then they end with a call for public help. Anyone with fact-based information related to Lilly and Jack Sullivan's disappearance is asked to contact the RCMP.
It's so sad that they have to add that.
But they're investigating every tip that comes in, and we've talked about this many times. Both of us can only imagine the kind of nonsense that makes its way to these tip lines. And if, and just the waste of time that would lead investigators, if they're going to pursue all of it, it's at the point where they're specifically asking for verifiable, fact-based information. So what they're saying, I bet, is something like, don't write us because you saw some anonymous account on Facebook write some weird thing in the comments and you looked and their profile picture is, a horseshoe. So maybe the children are at a horse race. Like this kind of nonsense is what I bet a lot of their time is taken up by.
It's because they couldn't put, if your conspiracy came from a Facebook post, please don't contact us.
Or if it came to you in a dream.
Yeah, right. If you are a psychic, please do not contact us.
Yeah. After the release of this press release, there was a press conference where they opened the press conference by admitting, this is the 1-year anniversary. We're sorry we don't have any new information to share, but we'll answer some questions from the media. And there was a collection of media there, and there was some good questions. So I want to play a few of them here, and we can chat about each of these. The first question and the first clip I want to get into here is just like we were talking about. The question is, in your news release this morning, you talked about wanting to have fact-based tips from the public. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
Can you tell us what you mean by
that? Can you tell us what you meant by that? And I have a follow-up.
Sure. Everybody is exposed to social media throughout their daily lives, and sometimes social media can get fairly speculative and sometimes not necessarily based in truth or fact. The information we need isn't necessarily speculation or thoughts or theories. We'd like information that actually points us in a direction to try and find out things that have taken place. So I just find sometimes social media can be a little bit murky. So
on social media, can you talk to us about how, when tips come from that kind of a source, or people are relating tips that they've heard on social media, how the impact that has on the investigation? Because I understand you have to chase those down anyway.
Well, obviously, when we investigate something, we try and gather every piece of information we possibly can about the situation. So when we get a tip, a speculative tip, then we're required, we're duty-bound to follow down all leads to either corroborate or uncorroborate that particular tip. So when we get things that really are, very speculative, it creates work for us that, of course, takes away from maybe better areas that we could focus on sometimes. So it just helps for us in our stuff. People consider, is this something that is factual, something the police can find more information on? So does that answer your question?
So in layman's terms, he's saying, do not waste our freaking time.
Because we're going to look into it, and we don't want to be chasing down this, nonsense from Facebook groups. And I'm sure it's not specific to this case. Facebook and online discourse must have changed investigative, like the job of an investigator in so many horrific ways.
I could not imagine. Like, I have a friend who works for like 911 and whatever, the non-emergent line. And like the foolishness that people call in with, I could only imagine what a missing persons tip line looks like. Good grief.
Yeah, but people, that said, people do want to help, and I think a lot of the tipsters calling in with stuff that maybe isn't the best.
But it comes from a good place.
It's coming from a good place. Yeah, that's the one positive thing, and I think hearing that the person hosting that press conference was the head of the major crime unit for the RCMP, Staff Sergeant McCameron, Rob McCameron, I think is his name. I think he came across as like kind and forgiving for of the people who are contributing these tips.
Well, he has to be. He can't get up there and be like, "Stop sending us bullshit." Unfortunately, I wish he could, but he can't.
Let's move on to the next question, because there's quite a bit more interesting stuff to get into. This one I think is really interesting, and it kind of goes along with a lot of the stuff we said at this point. The question is basically, to the public, it seems like the case is at a standstill. Is stuff happening behind the scenes?
I think this is like the biggest question there is. This is the main question.
Ever since this began, the RCMP has been actively engaged in pursuing the answers as to what happened with Jack and Lilly. This is a critical question for our community when 2 young children go missing and we have no answers. So we've not let up the steam, and we won't. Our investigators, our parents, as I've said before, we're families, and we want answers as much as everybody else. We haven't stopped, and we won't. We've engaged units from across Canada. We continue to engage those units to support us where needed. We've brought in specialized services for any area that's required, whether it be testing or looking at our social media for AI or whatever other specialized areas, human remains detection dogs. And we won't stop. If we see something we can leverage that'll help us find answers, we'll take that.
But are you any closer to knowing what happened to the kids? When I spoke with you back in December, you said you were forming pictures of what may have happened, but we still don't know. There's still no evidence of abduction or foul play or anything.
Yeah, we continue to gather information to develop that picture, and we have to review all the information that comes in when we make decisions. Of course, there is an active investigation. I'm not going to get into all the details of it, but we are pursuing all avenues available to us.
So as a member of the public who fears that the case is going cold and the RCMP are, at a dead end, does that answer make you feel any better? So he does say we're working on all these different things. We're pursuing every lead.
I know
possible.
I've said this in previous episodes, but the public is not entitled to know information as they find it out. They can't show all their cards.
But you say the investigators can't show all their cards. The investigators have not showed any cards, yet they're calling. Maybe, but they're also at the same time, they're calling for tips and they're criticizing the tips. We want fact-based stuff. But they're not, we'll get into that after, when we get into kind of the expert opinions on the state of the case that we'll get into after the next break. There's a lot of criticism towards the RCMP for continuing to call out for tips and video, but not giving anyone any information. But, I think that's going to become a talking point in this case. Let's get into one more clip. This one really hits the nail on the head. The RCMP are specifically asked, do you have any evidence of an abduction or criminality?
That's a very simple question. Can you confirm that as of today, there's no evidence of an abduction?
We don't have any evidence of an abduction at this point in time.
And by the same token, you have no evidence or reason to believe that this is a criminal matter?
Again, we continue to collect information. We will make our decisions based on that, but as of right now, we're still investigating this as a missing persons investigation. Right?
Do you have a working theory without saying what that is?
Again, we have avenues that we're traveling down, and we're considering all potential. So.
I think the last time RCP spoke with media was somewhere in the fall, and would you say from then to now that you've made any progress, or?
Oh, we've definitely made progress on going through the things we need to go through. Like, we're working every day to go down the roads we need to go down. So we have made forward progress, but it does take time. So
one more quick question.
Last one, Lindsay. That's it.
Do you believe Jack and Lilly are alive or dead?
I think I've already said that before. I think it was my first press debrief. Yeah, I know, and well, it hasn't changed. I think the chances that Jack and Lilly are alive are very slim.
So go back to the beginning of that clip. There were two questions. One is, do you have any evidence of an abduction? He said specifically, matter-of-factly, no, we don't have any evidence of abduction. They then asked their follow-up, do you have any evidence of criminality? He answered that question by saying, we're still investigating this as a missing persons case. We're pursuing every lead, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He didn't say we don't have evidence of criminality.
His non-answer is an answer.
But he says we're investigating it as a missing persons case, but he even takes that next step to say, but I can't, reveal the investigative steps and such. I feel like there's evidence. They know it's a crime. Major Crimes is investigating this. Come on.
Well, they don't just get Major Crimes on for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's all signs point to criminal activity.
Yeah.
But we just don't know what that is. There's several missing puzzle pieces.
Yeah, and maybe we
just have the border at this point.
Yeah, that's right. And maybe for them, it's not enough evidence that maybe it's a theory and they have some evidence to support it, but just not enough for them to be like, this is a criminal case. We're investigating, the murder, or, whatever the case may be. But
and it could all be circumstantial. That would never hold up in court.
I had mentioned to you that there were several experts weighing in on this press conference and this press release and the state of the case after the 1-year anniversary.
Like real experts or experts like me?
Real experts. Let's take a break and we'll get into some of that because there's a lot of good points are raised and a lot more to discuss.
I really appreciate the directness of the questions. Like they cut to the chase, and I like that.
And of course, there's a lot the RCMP is not going to reveal. At least, I guess a compliment to them is that they're willing to stand there and answer the questions. But in a way, it's an exercise in time wasting because you don't really get anything from it. You're left reading between the lines. They won't tell us anything, any valuable information, and they don't even answer directly.
It's basically to pacify the public for a little bit longer until they can figure out the next step.
Ms. Madeleine Klein, let's move on to I guess we'll call this the expert analysis segment of the episode. After the 1-year anniversary, the press conference we just talked a little bit about, it seemed every news outlet in Canada would have some experts on to, talk about what's going on and, and revisit the case. I pulled kind of my favorite moments from all of those appearances, and I want to share them with you. Let's start with Global News interviewed a criminologist and the Western University professor, Michael Arnfeld, about the press conference and the state of the case. Let's start with this moment from that interview. He was asked about how unprecedented and improbable this case is, the fact that there are 2 children in one family who go missing together. How unusual is that?
Mike Arney, you got the floor.
I'm interested to know, at the outset, Professor, what you have made of this case as it's unfolded over the past year. Is there anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it cannot be overstated the statistical rarity of what we've seen, where more than one child goes missing at the same time. I know of only one other case unresolved in the U.S., 2001 in Chicago. And there is one other noteworthy Canadian case in Calgary where a grandchild was taken with their grandparents that ended in a murder conviction. So for 2 children to go missing at the same time and a year later to have no real investigative indicators, given that the police are still asking for tips, and are actually also stating that they don't believe foul play is involved. This is extremely unprecedented.
Well put, because it is. We cover a lot of missing persons cases. I read, the Canadian and American crime news as it happens. I've never come across a case where two children went missing together. And for it to go a year without any evidence, no key suspect that the public's pointing at.
Right. Because statistically, 90-something%, it is always the parents, and it's solved within, I don't know what it is, 48 hours to a week or something like that. So it is. It's statistically bizarre. And it's gone so far. And there's no answers.
And continues to go without anything. And when you look at, I've gone through several times the original RCMP, what we know as the investigative notes, which was the application for the search warrants that outlined all the interviews and stuff they did. We've talked about it multiple times in the series. When you go through that, really what the RCMP investigators were doing was confirming and double checking and testing the timelines of everyone on the scene at the disappearance, mainly the children's stepfather, Daniel, their mother, Malaya, and Daniel's mom, who was in the trailer in the backyard. The original investigation seemed to just be getting their story via interviews and then collecting evidence to corroborate the story. For example, Daniel and Malaya said they had the children out the night before. So the RCMP then would go to these stores and collect, security camera footage to confirm that, get phone data to confirm, the phone is pinging from where they said they were. And it seems like all of the investigation, everything checked out and didn't reveal anything. So really, where do you go from there? It becomes quite difficult.
Right. And that's another reason it's so statistically bizarre, is because all their stories are checking out. All the, all the footage checks out. And also, it's 2025 when they went missing. They checked out all of the, trail cams and whatever cameras there were. And you can be tracked pretty much at all times right now.
Yeah.
They did not see those kids anywhere. It's just boggling.
Yeah. No, we kind of hinted towards this next moment in this interview, but I want to hit it over. I want to club it over its head now. During the discussion with Michael Arnfeld, the criminologist and the professor at Western University, the discussion turned towards the call out for fact-based tips and the fact that the RCMP is not exchanging any information with the public. They have a little talk about should the sharing of information be a two-way street.
Is it unusual that the police have not shared even a theory of what they think might have happened? They also haven't confirmed other details, like the boot print you mentioned. If they think it was made by Lilly or Jack, they haven't really spoken about any of that.
When you have anniversary stories and you ask or there's a renewed plea for tips, it should be a bit of a two-way street. And as time marches on, some of the holdback information should be sparingly released to the public so they know what types of tips to provide. So in this case, we have no new information, and yet the ongoing request for information to go to them. So I would hope that in the coming maybe weeks that a little bit more information that will allow the public to, really sort of think on how they can help might get released.
It's a good point, right? Some of the nonsense tips that they get, you and I have already said, we're sure most of them are people trying to help. They're, best intentioned. But if the police give a bit more information, it would at least guide all of this public attention in the right direction. Because right now, the people are just scattered around on the internet looking in every direction, trying to see what just seems out of place, which opens the door for conspiracies and psychics and God knows what. If we even had a drop of information, maybe you'd know where to start.
Do you think that would help? Because you and I know how weird the people of the internet are. So even when they're presented with fact, many disregard it. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you think a little bit of info would stop the weirdos from calling in with their conspiracies?
I don't know. I think it does. It will get to a point where it only makes sense to show some of your cards. We can look at another
That's
case
true.
you and I have talked about is the disappearance of Michaela Bally in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. after Michaela, she was a 16-year-old, she went missing. There was very little known or revealed about her disappearance. There was an incredible amount of public interest. As the years went by, no new information came. And I think it was around the 4-year anniversary, the RCMP investigating that case kind of opened the doors. It revealed a whole bunch of new information related to her last known movements. They released video footage of like her and Tim Hortons asking a stranger if she would rent her a hotel room. All this kind of
that wasn't released till 4 years later.
I think it was like 3 or 4 years later, and it was game changing when they did that. And I'm thinking they did that because at this point they're like, we got to do something. Let's just open the doors a bit and see what happens. I wonder if something like that someday could happen with Jack and Lily's case, where they just, reveal a bit more just to stir up the hornet's nest of public discourse.
Right. Hopefully. I hope maybe that's what they're doing to get people talking again. That would be, at this point, the best case scenario, because where are we right now?
Yeah.
No closer than we were a year ago.
But then again, for us, it's a guessing game because maybe behind the scenes, they're very close to something. Like, they have Daniel's criminal cases going through the courts. So that's getting people close to the story talking. Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like being a sports analyst, except you don't get to see the games. You don't even know what the score is. And you're not even sure who's playing, but you're trying to analyze, the outcome.
Oh, that's a really good way to put it. I like that.
Well, that's how I feel. Let's move on to another interesting discussion with an expert. This is CTV often has someone they refer to as their public safety analyst. His name is Chris Lewis. He's actually the former commissioner of the Ontario Provincial Police. We would have heard his name or his voice in several of our past episodes, as he's often commenting on Jack and Lily's case. He specifically was asked during an appearance on CTV about the 1-year anniversary, why don't the investigators share more? And again, this answer coming from him is very valuable because he was the commissioner of one of Canada's largest police forces. Here's how Chris Lewis answers that.
Why don't investigators share more of what they have?
Well, they share what they need to share to help the public maybe jog their memories, bring some more tips forward, but they're not going to tell the public that they're investigating, person A or person B. And that's something they're working on as an investigation. They have to keep that close to their chest. If they had something to say that the public would benefit from, they would. But to call a press conference, gather a lot of people, family members alerted, and then say nothing but, we have nothing more to tell you today, is just not, it's a waste of everybody's time and totally inappropriate.
Is there a line, though, Chris, where they might be able to share more before they get into any kind of jeopardy about, putting their investigation at risk? Is there a line there?
Absolutely. And I always drummed this into our public information officers that we have to tell everything we can. And if there's things we can't tell, then we have to explain why we can't if somebody asks us about it. But if we want the public to help us, we need to tell them what we can, bearing in mind, in the case of maybe jeopardizing a trial, integrity, there's some things you just can't say.
Well said.
It makes sense that they're not just going to have press conferences for fun.
Yeah.
It's just going to waste everyone's time, no new information.
He came across as critical of the fact that they had this press conference without any new information. He says, to get everyone together, to have the family come in and notify, the press show up, and to have no information is a bit disrespectful and inappropriate and a waste of everybody's time.
But I think it also would have been disrespectful and inappropriate to not hold something at the year anniversary.
Yeah, then they'd be the RCMP would be criticized for, not caring if they just dumped a press release out and that was it. So, yeah, I guess it's kind of a lose-lose for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's
definitely.
if we don't have one, people criticize us. If we do have one and don't say anything, people will be upset.
Well, people are upset because we want to know where these kids are already.
Yeah,
so
and just
that doesn't help.
And ensure that something's being done.
Right.
It's because it sure feels like it's cold.
It does. But like I said, we all don't work there. We never know what's going on behind the scenes.
Something that just jogged my memory or just caught my attention there is when we heard from Chris Lewis, he talked about, when I was commissioner of the OPP, if we were ever going to do a press release or a press conference, we would say whatever we could say. And if there was something we couldn't reveal for an investigative reason, we would explain to the public why we couldn't reveal that. That reminds me of the question that the RCMP faced about an abduction and criminality. The abduction...
we don't have any evidence of an abduction at this point in time.
Criminality?
That this is a criminal matter.
Again, we continue to collect information. We will make our decisions based on that. But as of right now, we're still investigating this as a missing persons investigation. Right?
He doesn't say. They don't reveal that whether there is or isn't evidence of criminality, but they do go on to explain why they can't reveal information. And it seems like this is telling me, and this is confirming to me, that they do have evidence of criminality.
Absolutely. If you read between the lines, I'm pretty sure that's what they're saying.
Last piece of the discussion with Chris Lewis I want to share is he was asked specifically about the fact that if this is a criminal case, how problematic is it to not find human remains? A dark question.
Is it possible police could make an arrest without knowing the whereabouts of the kids?
Absolutely. The police aren't saying it's a criminal investigation at this point, but it's the RCMP major crime section that's investigating it. So that tells you something. Obviously, they're just missing. They don't have enough information to say it was a crime. But when they do, and I still think they will someday, they're going to focus on somebody and they're going to make an arrest. Whether the children are found or not, that may lead them to where the children are. But I do agree with the RCMP senior officer that said they're likely not alive, but they may still be. And we've seen cases like that, you and I, in our careers, where some little girl went missing in the States and was found 30 years later. So we still have to have hope. In the meantime, we need to find out who may have contributed to this in some way.
Yeah, you often hear of a case where a body is found and then an arrest is made. You also hear of cases where an arrest is made and then shortly after a body is found. So it can go both ways. We both know the answer to that question, but I think it was interesting to hear his explanation.
Agreed. And I think, we needed to hear it from an expert such as him.
Yeah, but it's all things considered. At this point, 1 year post the disappearance of Jack and Lilly Sullivan, very little movement in the case, at least in the eyes of the public and what we're privy to. But I'm sure things are happening behind the scenes. The attention and the pressure remains on the RCMP's shoulders at this point. I don't think they're willing to let this case go unsolved. But things take time. I just hope, I hope they're getting close. And it would be great to know a bit about what's happening. It would sure make you feel better. The fact that they're silent about it, it bugs me, but I just hope it's for the right reasons.
Right. Like a Mr. Big Sting is in the works. That's what I'm hoping for.
Would people fall for Mr. Big Stings now, though? I feel like criminals should know about the Mr. Big Sting. If you're hiding this secret, and then you meet some guy and he's like, hey, I can pay you. I work for this criminal organization. You just got to tell me all your dirty secrets.
See, you are underestimating the stupidity of people, Jordan.
Yeah, that's a good point.
People are stupid and like to brag about their criminal activity.
Yeah. Whenever I hear of a Mr. Big Sting leading to an arrest, I'm just like, oh, you dummy.
You
There was
idiot.
A major case in Newfoundland recently. It's actually in trial now. It's going through trial now. A woman was killed. Her body was never found. Many people expected her, I think it was her husband, to be involved. He was never arrested. I think CBC even did a documentary on the case. Just recently, he was arrested and charged with her murder. And it turned out that a major piece of the evidence against him was a Mr. Big Sting that he fell for. And so I thought, you probably don't watch much like crime documentaries.
No, people are just... really gullible and dumb.
If it works, something has to give. Last thing I want to go out on is we've talked a lot about public pressure and the public and the community being involved in this case. At the 1 year anniversary, we won't call it a protest, but there was a rally outside of the Stellarton RCMP station. A group of, again, community members and supporters. This is the kind of thing that typically Daniel Martell would be at. He was not there for this one, but I just want to play a little bit of news coverage of the rally outside of the Stellarton RCMP station at the first anniversary.
Family, friends, and members of the public rallied outside their local RCMP detachment on Saturday.
We're here to mark 1 year of not having answers. 1 year of there's still so many questions.
Lilly and Jack were 6 and 4 years old when they were first reported missing from their home in Lansdowne Station on May 2nd, 2025. It was reported to police at the time the siblings wandered away from their property, but despite extensive search efforts in the surrounding area, there has been no signs of the children.
Lilly and Jack are two beautiful children that should be running around right now. They should be playing right now.
The rally organizer says the investigation needs a clearer direction.
The public is no further ahead today other than speculation of what we should be helping with.
Since Lilly and Jack's disappearance, the RCMP said they've received and are in the process of evaluating nearly 1,200 tips.
It's good to see people still coming out. It's like, this is the kind of stuff that has to happen to keep the case one that the RCMP will not allow to go unsolved.
Absolutely. And I don't know, I think one of the cops that we heard from earlier said, like, we're parents too. So we also want this case to be solved. I think that I would like to think that even without the public pressure behind the scenes, everyone working would want this case to be solved regardless.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that society agrees on. And one is that crimes against children must go punished. And I think a lot of people believe that
severely punished.
Severely punished. And I think a lot of people believe that there was a crime against these children. I'm one of them. I can't imagine the end result of this is some case of misadventure and the children were in the woods behind the house the whole time. That just doesn't seem possible. If the RCMP had evidence of that and no evidence of anything else, they would still be searching there. It wouldn't be these, random civilian groups poking around in the woods. The RCMP, I think, at this point, know the kids aren't in the woods.
Absolutely. Because between searches and dogs and infrared cameras and whatever else, they would have been found by now.
Yeah. I think a lot of the later searches that the official searches that the RCMP were involved in, I think they were looking for evidence, not for, human remains after an accident or something like that. That's my opinion, but I guess time will tell. And if future updates and when future updates happen in this case, we'll revisit it again. And hopefully it's only a matter of time before we do an episode about the resolution of this case.
Like, expeditiously. Maybe next episode.
I want to thank you for joining us for this episode of the Canadian Gothic. Before I end here, I want to send positive vibes to everyone affected by this case, and I also want to call out to anyone close to the story to reach out to me. I'd be happy to include your voice in the show if you care to speak with me. Now, with that said, I'm going to start wrapping up the episode, but before we part, I have some thanks. First, a big thanks to Madeline Klein for joining us here tonight. A thanks to Monty Datta, who contributes the music for this show, and Linz from the Dystopian Simulation podcast, who provides our intro and outro voiceovers. And then lastly, most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening to the Canadian Gothic, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. Now, on the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed. Nikki, Maya, and Jennifer, we appreciate you. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can do it in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple bucks a month, and that money will fund the creation of new episodes. But the premium feed will also give you those episodes a few days early, give them to you ad-free, and give you access to a back catalog of episodes. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can go premium at thecanadiangothic.com/subscribe. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know they should listen. Your support is very much appreciated. So with all that said, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird.
Thank you for listening to Canadian Gothic.